Week 1 of the second season of the SPL is finally here, and Playmore is taking on the Toronto Tyrants. This is a game I've been excited for a very long time, Tyler. Expectations are very high, and it seems like a lot of people are high on our draft. People are ranking it as one of the best drafts, if not the best draft, but looking at week 1, our opponent's team is not too shabby. A lot of crazy threats, and Tyler, I'm seeing 2 frogs.
You could argue maybe the one hole in our draft this season is the lack of frogs, and I'm seeing not 1, but 2 more frogs than I would like to see on the opposing side. When you're going up against Playmore, you're probably scared to bring those 2 frogs, but an opportunity not just to send a message to all the frog lovers out there, John, but to send a message to the SPL in the first match that Playmore has this season.
But enough from us. Let's see what Coach Ben brought for this matchup.
Hello, Playmore fans. The Beneral is back and ready to take on Week 1 against Nexus. Here's the squad we're bringing. First, we have our number 1 draft pick, Iron Valiant. It's going to be our cleanup sweeper this game. Mixed attacking with Endure. Endure is so we can live a Brave Bird from Talonflame if it's Gale Wings, which has priority no matter what our speed is. Takes Brave Bird recoil, and then we outspeed the next turn and kill with T-Bolt. Close combat, Thunderbolt, Vacuum Wave does all the damage we need to for the rest of the team. Vacuum Wave, ideally for a Choice Scarf Meowscarada. Next, we have Metagross. This is going to be our potential lead against a Galvantula if we see it. We are rocking a very bulky set with Assault Vest and enough speed to deal with Ursaluna. We have Bullet Punch for priority, Knockoff for items, Hammer Arm to get Chip on Ursaluna or get rid of a Chople Berry, and then lastly Rock Slide to catch the Talonflame or to break down the Galvantula and clean it up with Bullet Punch after. Next, we have Garchomp, a very defensive and speedy set this week just to help get Chip everywhere with Rocky Helmet and Rough Skin. Stealth Rock is just nice to get on the field. Earthquake is pretty spammable apart from their flying types. And I can just Dragon Tail out anything that needs phasing that might be setting up or just to get extra Chip with Stealth Rocks on the field. And lastly, Endure is just to get the most possible hits against a Rough Skin and Rocky Helmet for them to take the most damage to get it in range for Iron Valiant. Next, we have our another Rocky Helmet Mon, a Moongus, very defensive in order to deal with, well, as much as possible, but mixed special defensive to also help with a special attacking Enamorous. We have the amazing Regenerator ability to come in and bring as much health back to us as possible. Spore is pretty spammable versus their team. We might see safety goggles, but it is nice just to have in the late game. Stabs for Sludge Bomb and Giga Drain, and Foul Play to avoid setup from potentially Toxicroak, which walls our stabs, and then as well as getting good damage off on the Jirachi as well. Next, we have our Terra Captain Glastrier. This is a very bulky set with Substitute and Leftovers, and I am excited to use this thing because they have no switch-ins. With Terra Electric and Terra Blast, Icicle Crash, and Horsepower, we're able to deal with everything on their team. The best thing that can handle it is Curum, which takes 40%, and it doesn't get any roost. It's time to do some damage. And lastly, we have Cyclozar to rapid spin away any sticky webs, because Iron Valiant will not get the speed boost if it has its speed lowered before the booster energy goes off. So very important role there. Knockoff, Dragon Tail, U-turn, just for extra support. Very straightforward. Dragon Tail really limits any setup, potentially the weak Cyclozar. And that's the squad. Let's see if we can pick up a dub for the first week of SPL Season 2.
Thank you, Coach Ben. I love everything about the team he's bringing, Tyler. This is the type of team I would have used when I was coaching. And honestly, it's what I've expected from Ben this draft. Very clearly better for his play style. I'm so excited for this battle. I'm so nervous. And wow, Blastoise on the squad. Tyler, we felt pretty confident in the 6 or 7 we'd see, but Blastoise was one of the 3 we didn't expect to see. What are your thoughts seeing that on the other side?
Well, we had talked about Blastoise right before we started watching this battle. We had mentioned, should we take Blastoise as a serious threat? And initially we brushed it off because of, on our side of things, how many threats we have to Blastoise. We figured that might push them away from bringing it.
Yeah.
That was not the case, and to their credit, that main threat being Hisuian Electrode, we didn't bring that, and maybe they were banking on that being the case, and if that was the first prediction, they nailed it.
Before we get into the battle, though, we must talk about the official sponsor of Play More, play-more.store. Hey, this incredible Bubby plush, the mascot of the team. There's some merch there. We'll have new designs in the future, hopefully this season, but for now, go pick up something as you're seated every Sunday rooting on this team. Tyler, I'm very excited. I mean, we got these spiffy suits on. But when the suits come off, the Play More shirts come on.
Yes. And we are going to have so many Bubby plushes. And just imagine what Play More is going to do for an eventual championship. It's going to be so grand, and it all starts with this match.
It really does. Now, Numb Nexus is someone I have battled many times before, an old friend of mine. This is a battle I've been looking forward to, and this is a Pokemon I've been looking forward to see in battle, but it's not the matchup we'd love to see. But the Beneroll going on the offensive. Now, Glastrier is a very, very, very bulky Pokemon. He might be predicting a U-turn, allowing him to get a slow sub up with anything that comes in. And he's talked about, hey, nothing really wants to deal with this thing one-on-one. So this, a bold first play, but I really like it, Tyler.
The main threat that he also told us about with Jirachi is hazards. He was worried about stealth rocks with the Jirachi, and I wonder if he's thinking that still here on first turn, it's going to try to get those hazards up, and it does.
That's a fantastic call, and now that this thing is electric type, it's going to resist Iron Head unless I am very incorrect and forget Pokemon. So we might be able to keep a sub up without Jirachi breaking it easily, and it does not want to stay in on a high horsepower, but it doesn't really have anything that he wants to switch in. I mean, his team is not one that's very ready to take on this thing. Is he making a big prediction here?
One of the main things we talked about with Glastrier is how there is really nothing on the other side that matches up with it. You mentioned it, especially now with the Terra. Nothing wants to switch into it. This is a huge turn.
Okay. Yeah, this is a... Actually, I mean, this is still really fantastic, right? I mean, the sub is going to go away. We learn a little bit about Jirachi. Stealth Rock, Psychic, No Zen Headbutt, and we get the good damage on, but the Berry. So this Jirachi was very, very ready to lead and possibly be up against maybe a Garchomp lead. I don't know if it was specifically ready for the Glastrier, but it can't stay in again.
But I wonder here if it's banking on this exact move. If you go all in, and even it tells me from looking at the team composition from Nexus, you're going to see a heavy banking on predictions, because just that team comp bringing Blastoise, that's a prediction in itself. So I think we're probably going to see a pretty aggressive battle style, although you've had your fair share of battles with him in the past. You know that better than I do.
I should. But that damage, Tyler, I'm not sure if that will break the next sub. That may be a damage roll. Maybe it's just enough to break the sub. But it seems like there's an acceptance to lose Jirachi here. I mean, he's in way too deep. He can't switch at this point. We have the sub up. It's the beauty of Glastrier's low speed. It's surprising to me that we were able to get this Pokemon when we did late in the draft, because the only knock on it is the low speed that allows it to do what it's doing right now. Tank a hit, get a sub up, and now the opponent's in a really bad spot. Yeah, we may not have a very, very healthy Glastrier at the end of this, but we are going to start this battle ahead, as I'm pretty sure high horsepower is going to take this Jirachi out of its miserable existence. I thought the sub could live. I got excited, and now the Jirachi is dead. Good riddance. The crit, not necessary from the horse. Goodbye. Sayonara. I'm not gonna miss you, Tyler. That's +1 attack.
That's the ability we talked about that makes this thing so dangerous. We've talked about this before. I've been able to watch you in playthroughs utilize Moxie. This is the first time that I've been able to see Chilling Nane effect at all. I'm gonna be honest, when we were coming into the season, I did not know it existed. Now I do, and it's one of my favorite abilities because we've got it on our side. If anybody else had this and we were facing Glastrier, I would be terrified, to be quite honest.
One of my favorite Pokemon to use in Draft League, it was Mudstale. This is just Mudstale times a billion. I mean, Stamina is a fantastic ability, but I mean, this thing, instead of, boosting the defenses after it gets hit, I mean, every kill, it gets that plus attack. Now, the crazy thing with this Pokemon, obviously with speed, it's not like it's going to Moxie sweep with like a Choice Scarf or after a Dragon Dance, nothing like that. But what on our opponent's team can come in and take this thing out easily? I'm not sure. I mean, was Ursaluna on the other side and I may have missed it? Like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know with what we're seeing if there is confidence that they can take Glacier out in one hit at this point. We might be able to take a second Pokemon down with our lead. Now, we also have the opportunity to switch out, and it could just be the safe play, make sure we preserve this Pokemon, but I don't know, this is a really, really exciting spot to be in, but we go straight into the Amoonguss, which is, I mean, it makes sense. Amoonguss is a pretty safe switch. Obviously, switching Amoonguss in on a flying type is not the best thing. I like Amoonguss. It's easy to switch it in on most physically offensive Pokemon, but at this point, I trust the Beneral. Amoonguss with the Regenerator, even if it does happen to go for, you know, some sort of crazy prediction here, will be fine. And the chances of a prediction that insane on an electric type horse are slim to none, I'd like to think.
I do remember from past battles with Enamorus that one of the best tech moves it has is Earth Power. And I wonder if that's what Ben is banking on here.
I would assume so, but we do see the play rough.
They go for some sort, that was a safe move, a predictive move in case Ben switches, even if he stays in. Life Orb.
Life Orb.
That's a ridiculous amount of damage. For that to, even with the Life Orb, not very effective on Amoonguss, that's a lot of damage. That's a big hit. You know there's a lot of investment there for that to be able to do as much as it did.
And that's kind of what I was a little bit worried about. You know, the flying prediction, a little bit too insane. You know, the ground move, like, you know, that kind of coverage, maybe a little too safe. I felt like we would see Fairy there, a nice in-between, which would make Amoonguss the right switch. But to see that kind of damage, this does put us in an interesting spot, you know?
But now you know that this is a physical Enamorus. And...
Right, but contrary, right? Contrary with the superpower?
That's fair, but I still feel like you feel pretty good about Metagross here. I don't think it threatens Metagross too much.
Yeah, it is interesting. Now, Metagross, of course, with the Assault Vest is going to be able to hopefully help us tank some of the, you know, especially offensive Pokemon. But if we do expect, you know, a Play Rough or just pretty much anything that's not superpower and boosting up, we should be able to threaten it out. So it really, ooh, that looks great.
It's beautiful in this game.
Wow. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I like the thoughts from you. It's from our side, it's interesting. I'm so much more, well, I mean, we're probably as worried as Coach Ben, but he's got confidence in his decisions, right? I'm thinking about what could go wrong in the situation. We bring in Metagross, 9 times out of 10, it is the perfect play. On the off chance that there's a prediction thinking that Amoonguss doesn't want to stay in and possibly go down, that superpower, we could have been in a really, really tough spot as this thing. Maybe not set up the sweep, but maybe set up to break through a Pokemon or two. Now, Ben has that momentum, knowing it can't stay in, go for the knockoff, see what's going on with the Blastoise, with the Citrus Berry. Ooh. But now a decision. We were worried about Shell Smash Blastoise over here. And with the Citrus Berry, I mean, I don't know, that, I guess it's not the white herb you might have expected, but it does feel like it could be some setup Blastoise, something that's meant to take a hit, heal up a little bit, and then deal some pretty big damage. Metagross doesn't really have the coverage to take this thing on in a big way, but Coach Ben might just want to get some damage on it and revenge it with something else. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about this.
Is this just a Wave Crash Blastoise? Would be my guess.
Possibly, but yawn.
Ooh.
Interesting, huh?
Maybe the Citrus Berry is just to help it stick around and be annoying.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually gone against a Blastoise like that, but that can be really, really useful. You know, thankfully for us, we can immediately switch out, but that's the whole purpose of Yawn. You go for Yawn, you kind of force a switch. What is that next play? What is Nexus setting up in this moment? I don't think I can see what he's setting up, but I'm a little bit nervous. I imagine there's something sneaky behind that. We were able to take out that first Pokemon, but Jirachi was kind of hanging out there like, hey, I am doomed to die early in this game. So, you know, things are not blasted open yet. I don't feel like we know what Nexus's win cons are. I do love seeing the new Bubby come in and immediately get yawned. Interesting. And Coach Ben just saying, I'm letting this thing go to sleep. I am sick of this. And you know what?
I like the move, one, because you get rid of the hazards, and two, if it's got Ice Beam, it's going to use it, and you're going to find that out. And there it is.
No, man, you are on top of it. My man went away to research and come back even better for season 2. This is just it feels great in so many ways, Tyler. It's great to be back. It's great to be in the booth with you. And you know what? It's great to have Stealth Rocks gone with Jirachi out of the game. That was absolutely starting to be an issue. The yawn forcing us to switch around. I think the interesting thing there, I mean, Stealth Rocks are good, but Stealth Rocks aren't really hurting our team too much. And with our Glastrier becoming electric type, it's not even like the 25%. So if that was the plan, just yawn and get some, Stealth Rock damage, it doesn't really fill me with too much fear.
This is a dicey switch, though. You're anticipating it goes for probably a water type move here. And it's that's our guy. That's our guy.
Yeah, I really like that. Now, Ice Beam was a possibility still, but if we saw an Ice Beam from Nexus, I would have been so excited. I think I would have said, hey, we're going to win this game. We might win this game 5-0 because that is too safe a play. Yes. You yawn to try to set something up and then just continually Ice Beam. Nothing good's really going to come from that. This way, with that flip turn, now Nexus is able to bring in the right Pokemon to threaten us out, which is really big on his part. And Ben made the fantastic play to say, hey, Rocky Helmet, let's hurt that Blastoise a little bit more. I love seeing this overall, but I think we're going to end up being on top in this little exchange. Now,
that's
toxic.
Huge.
Wow.
Great, skillful play there from Ben.
Wow.
Threw it up all the way.
And to be fair, there was a decent amount of skill. I really like Nexus's play with the flip turn to bring in the threat and try to set up. But because Ben made the aggressive and correct switch into Amoonguss, you know that thing's going to go for the Swords Dance. It was brought in, to set up, try to scare out the Amoonguss and cause some damage. Ben stays in. He's not worried about that. If it goes for Flare Blitz or Brave Bird, the recoil plus the Rocky Helmet, Talonflame is basically done. But now, not only was that damage enough to get rid of Gale Wings, which is huge for Iron Valiant late into the game, but with the poison, which was skillful, it's on a timer, which is fantastic. Now, this is still a +2 Talonflame, but Tyler, Talonflame doesn't have the highest attack stat in the world.
No.
And Tyler, I think that's a dead Talonflame.
We eat that just fine.
With the rough skin, the recoil, all of that together,
Ben
the
was
poison
orchestrating that all the way. That's just
absolutely
beautiful. And I love the start with Amoonguss because in almost every single situation, and that's why the Swords Dance, for sure is coming on the other side. Amoonguss, what's the number one thing it's known for in competitive? Spore. You're assuming that that's going to be a play. Ben knows there's no shot I do this. It's probably got goggles on to prevent that. Swords Dance, you get the damage, not just to get the Gale Wings gone. Yep. Very skillful poison like we talked about. They know you're going to switch. They're going to go for the aggressive attack. This Garchomp was set up specifically for this moment. All of that entire sequence, while I know the poison is an RNG thing, all of that was orchestrated from prep days in advance of this match, and it just goes exactly as planned. That's where the prep matters, and that's what makes Ben such a good coach for us to have.
Well, and really just to piggyback on that, the poison actually wasn't part of the Talonflame going down, and it really shows the incredible prep for, the Beneral. And really it shows, hey, last season was a fantastic season. We did pretty well for ourselves. But this season, this team is a lot more equipped to do what Ben really wants to do, as we see the Endure here. He has Endure on multiple Pokemon. I've not seen this used by many draft league coaches, and hey, maybe all the top coaches are using it willy-nilly. Maybe that means I wasn't one of them, but to have Endure on 2 Pokemon is really, really interesting, Tyler, and we're about to see if that prep we've been talking about, if this team we've been talking about is up for the task, as this guy is terrifying.
The other thing with Ben that we should mention is he went off in the offseason and won a whole other draft league championship. And then he comes in here, what is being regarded as the best team drafted in the SPL this year. So he's been working on the coaching skills. The drafting skills are there too.
No, absolutely. And this is a pretty safe play on the other side, and I'm completely fine with it. Some really nice damage against the Meowscarada. I'm pretty sure it would have killed the Garchomp easily if we did not go for Endure. We can save the Garchomp if we want as just, you know, a Pokemon to sacrifice later for a little momentum. But I'd assume we want to sacrifice it here, as Meowscarada is scary, and with Rough Skin, whatever they want to go for, it's going to be a little bit of damage. But I don't know. It is interesting. This is a Pokemon we have been worried about, but we could go into a Mungus. Hard Wallet. Maybe it doesn't go for knockoff twice in a row, but I feel like knockoff twice in a row is free. So, okay.
I feel like the only perk here with saving Garchomp is just in case later on you've got a chance to get your Stealth Rocks up. It's our one hazard Pokemon that we've got in this battle.
Yeah, no, there is
I understand trying to save it.
Well, and it also has a really good speed tier, right? It's going to outspeed most Pokemon on the other side. That can be really nice. Bubby asleep isn't really going to do anything. We were already ready.
That's the Pokemon to sacrifice.
Right, we were able to get rid of hazards. Sticky Webs was something we were worried about in the team prep stage. We're not worried about it anymore. The question now, as he looks at Glastrier, is what do we want to bring in to either threaten Meowscarada out or take it out? Now, Zoro's a possibility, but I think he really wants to save that to clean up late game.
Absolutely.
So
especially in this situation where we've got Gelwings are out of here, you get rid of the Meowscarada. If that thing's gone before you bring in Zoro, match is done. It sweeps. It's got the booster energy for speed. You can seal it from there. This is the last obstacle to get through before you get to that point.
Yeah, we don't have a damage calc in front of us. It's difficult to really say if, you know, Kuzan over here, I don't know how to pronounce any of these names, it's going to be able to live the hit easily.
For our purposes, we're going to call him Kyle Kuzma. Yeah, that's our guy.
NBA champion Kyle Kuzma. I mean, hey, Kuzma was able to do what we wanted him to do, which forces out the Blastoise that skillfully dodges.
You know, it just as accurate from deep as Kuzma. It's a good comparison.
We may need to drop the Kuzma name. You know what? Kyle's in.
Kyle, yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll cut the last half.
Yeah, Kyle. I feel like you can stay in very easily here and go for the Terra Blast. Yeah. Now, maybe Blastoise outspeeds, goes for the flip turn, and that is why Ben wants to possibly sacrifice the Garchomp. But this is an interesting spot. You know, we possibly want to keep the Glastrier for the Meowscarada in the future. Okay, thank you. I was a little confused with what we were seeing. It felt like this is straightforward. Take out the Blastoise. So. It's frustrating with the yawns. We are going to have to switch here. And this is where Yawn Blastoise, as I set up a little bit straighter. I'm a little bit worried. This is where this thing really becomes a problem. Hey, he was yawn, flip turn into Swords Dance. You know, Gale Wings, freaking Talonflame, the bird. Caca! It's doing whatever it's doing over there. What is he doing this time? Yawn into what? Yawn into something that wants to set up. And Ben's got to be very, very careful with his next play. We have
I
our
feel like
chips.
This might be Ursaluna time.
It's interesting, man. It's very interesting because it's taken a little bit to bring in that next Pokemon. So I don't know if that's hesitation on, you know, the opponent or what.
But it's difficult because whatever you want to bring in, obviously the objective is to set up. But this Glastrier with the attack boost and with the spread of different types that it's got on it, it's going to hit anything for huge damage to where it's scary to try to set up against it. You almost have to attack here.
Ursaluna is always going to be a big lumbering bear, and that's something that we can rely on, thankfully. The question, though, is this why we kept Garchomp around? Is this the perfect moment to sacrifice the Garchomp? It seems like it is. I was kind of thinking, hey, we might want to save this thing to possibly outspeed and get some damage, maybe pick something off, but it does make sense here as that Earthquake would have obliterated a Moongus. I'm just hopeful that Ben has had a plan this entire time for the bear. And as he sits and looks at his options and looks a little stressed,
it's clear he's debating two of them.
I am getting a little bit more stressed myself. Now, we do still have Zoro that's ready to clean up in the back. Now, what could happen here, right? If you bring in Frankie, he comes in, he pops the berry, the weaken the fighting moves. Maybe that's an option there. Mm-hmm. Or you bring in Among Us, the defensive mushroom. I would lean Among Us here just because I am most
suspicious of what you talked about with them trying to set up, and that's the whole point of this thing having foul play.
Yeah, I mean, Among Us over here is the play, I think 9 times out of 10. But the fact that there was any hesitation, I'm just a little bit worried of what has been worried about on this side. Now, we do actually move a little bit slower than the bear. I assume you spore, unless you're worried it could have something to prevent spore. And then, of course,
the entire Metagross debate was just bring it in and hit it very hard with Hammer Arm.
No, that's what I'm saying. And if it does have a Chople Berry, you pop the Chople Berry,
yes,
and then you can take it out with the Iron Valiant. Now, I feel like when you start doing that, you might be overthinking things when you can bring in Among Us over here and get some good damage off. And that's what you said right there. The foul play as he went for Sword Stance. Now, we talked about every possible option Ben could have gone through. And you know what? We're in a really good spot because I don't care about a Chople Berry. We're taking that thing out at this point, and that's what we needed. We just needed a way to make sure that we could take it on at the end of the game with the Iron Valiant. And I really do like what Ben's doing here. If you could save the Amoonguss for the genie up in the sky, that might be ideal. It could also just be ideal to, not
he's
be
got
crazy.
I'm sure he's doing the calcs, or he's done it beforehand of knowing what this is going to do.
No way! Among Us! Wow! Wow, Tyler, I did not think that this thing was living. The Stab EQ +2 Ursaluna. I know that little mushroom guy is pretty bulky. I know it is fully invested in defense, but whoo, there's not many things that can take a hit from Ursaluna.
That's where that investment comes into play. Literally, every point of investment he could give, HP or defense.
Yep.
The prep this week has been immaculate. And I think if you go back to the opening week of last season versus this season, that's probably been the biggest difference. And a lot of that is just shaking off the rust and being ready to go. Yep. And there has been no time period to accumulate any rust for Ben because he's kept playing during the offseason. The prep from the beginning of last season to the end of last season, that was probably the number one thing we talked about was how much better it got. That's just going to trickle over into this season, and it's going to keep getting better. And he's already a good enough battler, so that the prep was really the only thing that needed to be improved upon, and we've reached the point where it's elite too.
Well, and the really big thing is the biggest reason I wanted to work alongside Ben, I wanted him to be my head coach, is not only is he an incredible coach, but he plays like I do. It'd be a little bit easier to commentate. And hey, if I'm not going to be battling, it'd be nice to watch someone step into those shoes, possibly do better, but also play in a familiar way. And, having a regenerator core like we do, having these defensive threats, being able to go into the week and say, you know what? I can have a Pokemon in Amoonguss that can be ready to go. It can be max defensive to take on all of these different threats is fantastic. Because, Tyler, we went against all of these Pokemon last season, and every single time we were terrified with no answers. Right now, we've been able to bring in Amoonguss, live Ursaluna, take it out, keep it in on this silly genie as it superpowers and sets up, knowing that with the Rocky Helmet and the Life Orb, it's going to knock this thing down. And now I think the game, it's in its final stages. I don't know if we have cleaned up, but this is what Ben built this team for. This is what Zoro is here to do. We outspeed with the booster energy. I mean, we already outsped to begin with, but with a Thunderbolt, goodbye. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Tyler, give him a new name.
Steve.
Goodbye, Steve.
It's amazing to watch the way this battle is unfolded, especially with what's on the other team, because like you talked about, these are Pokemon we were terrified of last season, and they were all split up. So you've got 2 or 3 together. I would, you could put Ursaluna in that conversation. 3 Pokemon on this team that last year would have been on separate teams, and each one a dire threat where you're scared to death. How do we handle this? 3 all on one team. And Ben has put on an absolute masterclass of how to take care of them.
And now we see the Vacuum Wave. I don't know if there's an expectation it could be Choice Scarf on the other side, but does this kill? Oh, so close. Okay. But wait.
Stronger, but that didn't do anything the first turn.
Oh, and we are fired. And just like that, Playmore takes a convincing week 1 victory. There's no such thing as a Vacuum Wave miss. There's no such thing as a close combat miss. The coach on the other side, I don't know if he was doing a calc to see if he hit 3 times, if it would have mattered. It doesn't matter, coach. You got that W. Absolutely celebrate this win. And you know what? This is a fantastic way to start the season, Tyler. I love how much time we were able to spend in this game, really just complimenting not only the prep, how we played, but just the team that we drafted this season. It feels like the perfect way to begin this season. There's so much hype. There's so much hope. It's not championship or bust. That's way too high of an expectation to put on any coach in any league at any time. But this is a team with high expectations. This is a coach with high expectations. And after this week 1 battle, as you said, against Pokemon that we were fearful of week in and week out last season, I'm feeling really good about this team. I'm feeling really happy. So glad to be back here with you.
I think the way that I'll simply sum it up before we chat with Ben would be, I referenced this a little bit in the battle. Ben is a better battler than he was, not just at this time last season. He's a better battler now than he was at the end of last season.
Yep.
This team is superior to the one that he had last season, and he took that team to the semifinals. Ben is now better as a coach and a battler. The team he's got is better. I can't wait to see how this season unfolds.
And on that note, let's talk to the winning coach and see what he has to say.
We are pleased to be joined by our esteemed and this season undefeated head coach, the Beneral. Ben, we opened the new league with a W, a pretty dominant win, and it felt like the entire way you were just in control, ahead of schedule with how things were flowing in this battle. Did you have the same feeling? Because to us, it never really seemed like you were on your heels or having to play from behind.
Boys, it feels good to be back, and that dub was great. I will say it did feel like I had control of majority of the battle. It definitely started with that critical hit on the Jirachi, which did matter. I was a little surprised the Jirachi was actually invested enough with Psychic in order to break my sub on Glastrier. But Jan Blastoise tried slowing me down a little bit, but the fact was I had just solid prep and solid positioning to where I was able to kind of just keep control of the game. I think it would have been completely different if you got that Ursaluna or the Meowscarada kind of like moving a little bit earlier. Maybe save that Talonflame in the back because I had to be more cautious of it with Valiant. I might have not treated it as well, or maybe Garchomp would have been more weakened, something of the sort. So could have been an entirely different game, but just based off of me being able to click buttons early with Glastrier, really sealed the deal in the long run. That picking up 2 kills and then setting up Val perfectly in the game was great. So prep came out perfect.
Last season, I remember very clearly how worried we all were when we went up against threats like Meowscarada, Ursaluna, Enamorus. I mean, these Pokemon are terrifying, and this season we went against 3 of those threats in the same battle, and, as we talked about, wasn't super scary. How nice is it having a team like this that, at least on the defensive side, is a little bit more equipped to handle these big threats?
Well, John, let me just set something straight. First of all, we have the threats. I don't care what they have on their team. We have the threats. Our team is the best draft, and they're full of monsters. So, I mean, it's definitely great to have like a more bulky offensive team that I'm just more comfortable with in general compared to our previous season. I think this team's going to do great for my prep and just being able to, comfortably take on majority of the Pokemon we face. Power creep has had a significant play in this generation, but I truthfully think with this team we're able just to work around it fairly easily, I'd say. There are still going to be some big obstacles here and there, but I mean, between the like of, insane pseudo legendary stats, a little mini regen core, wish pass from Vaporeon, all that good stuff, I feel like we're able to deal with these a lot better, and we have a lot of amazing dual typings and every sort of coverage immunities, so the team's pretty stacked. So it makes me very comfortable to just have something I can rely on so easily week by week when it comes to prep.
While it feels good to end week 1 with a W, week 2, we're going up against not just the reigning champion of the SPL, but Poke-Aim. Joey, one of the best battlers I know of, someone I've battled many times in Draft League and outside of Draft League. We all know him well. How excited are you for this matchup? How are you feeling, as this could be the biggest matchup of the regular season for us?
Light work. Yeah, reigning champ's alright, but that's talking about the past. I'm looking forward to the future with your future champion right here. I've been a big fan of Joey for years. He's actually probably the most watched YouTube channel when it comes to like my time clicking through videos and wasting so much time throughout my day or the nights. But I've learned a lot of competitive Pokemon from him, so I'm very excited to dodge me in APA twice, I'm pretty sure, way back then. So being able to play him now, especially during the Legacy season, seems great. And we just got to prove that Bubby is better than Billy.